So welcome to our Finance and Performance meeting for the 25th of September. Can everyone start by joining me with the opening karakia, please? Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā tatara ki ta, ihi aki hana, te akura, he tu, he hoka, te hei moriora. Right, thank you. All right, now before we begin, we've got some special guests with us today from the St Thomas's Rugby League Club, which is fantastic. And I understand Uffa's here, the head boy. Do you want to come on down? And we'll get you all up for a photo with the mayor in a minute, but I think the mayor's got some opening remarks he wanted to make. Yep. So do you want to kick into it, Phil?
You're not going to make me read these by memory, are you?
No.
Hey, I'd like to welcome to the council today the lads from St Thomas of Canterbury Christchurch, their first 15 rugby league team, the Saints. This team of exceptionally talented young athletes have brought home the silverware as the winners of the New Zealand Rugby League National Secondary Schools Tournament for the second year in a row. Yeah. Led by co-captains Mihana Pooling and Jackson Stewart, the Saints triumphed 24-18 over the guys from De La Salle College in Mangere in a hard-fought match. I'd like to single out Mihana for being named the most valuable player in the Premiership final, and coach Andrew Awi-Matangi for being awarded Premiership MVP coach. Also special congratulations to the 8 young men who have been named in the New Zealand Secondary Schools Under-18 boys team. Absolutely fantastic achievement by you all. You underscore the depth and talent and passion we all have for the game here in Christchurch, and why we should have an NRL franchise here. Well done, well done.
Arthur, I don't know if you want to introduce the team, or and you don't have to if you don't want to, if you want to say anything. And after that, we might get the whole team to come down and have a photo with the mayor and the trophy in the middle of the floor.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting us to this event today. My name is Afa Puru, and this is our school's Fresh 15 team. I'd just like to say that we're massively honoured and blessed to be a part of this. I know you guys have a busy schedule and taking the time to invite the boys over to be celebrating our achievements, because I'm proud of the boys, and we'd just like to thank you for your support and all the things that you're doing for us. I know that your support doesn't go unnoticed, and I just know the boys are very grateful for being here, and I'd just like to be just very appreciative. It's not like all the time you get to be a part of this and in this environment. I know the boys are very just grateful, and I'd just like to thank you all for that.
Well done. Thank you. So, do you want to all come down and bring the trophy, and then we'll get Phil in the middle, and Bede and I will get out of the way, so that.
Come down and make these particularly short.
Yeah.
I know the Lord will make
let's hope the rest of the meeting goes as well as that. That would be very good. Hey, thank you all very much for coming in, and well done again. It's great we can celebrate your success with you. So we'll go through to apologies. So we've got an apology from Councillor Goff for absence, a partial from the Deputy Mayor, partial absence from the Deputy Mayor, and a possible early departure from Yanni. I don't know where, is Andre online?
No, he's not.
Okay, so we'll just,
Just possible for me, there's a mental health event at Pioneer, mid-afternoon.
Oh, if we're not done by then.
Yeah.
You'll be taking me with you if we're not done by then. That's okay. So I'll move the apologies. Phil's happy to second them. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you. And we'll just, when Andre's on, we'll just let us know. That'd be great. Now we've got declarations around from the Deputy Mayor and Councillor McClellan for the PX item on the Housing Trust. I'll move the open minutes. Victoria's happy to second them. Anything? All in favour? Against? That's carried. I'll move that we exclude the that we include the supplementary report. The Mayor or Melanie will second. All in favour? Against? That's carried. David, we don't have any public forum, do we? No deputations, and we don't have any petitions. So we'll go, Peter, to your report, please. Thank you.
Right, good morning, everyone. This is the first report of the new LTP. Just a quick overview of what you're about to discuss here. The purpose of this report is to make sure that we're delivering the LTP. It's not a marketing report. It's not good news, infotainment. It's how are we doing at delivering on the LTP we signed off in June. So to do that, it focuses on the vital few goals set by ELT around service delivery, project delivery, financial performance. That's across over $1 billion a year per annum spend. It also leaves a trail to where you can go if you want more granularity. Of course, it's a high-level view, so it leaves you with a breadcrumb trail of where you can go to look if you need more detail. That's also backed by the financial and capital project reports that follow. We've got it down to about 5.5 pages. We can probably squeeze another page or so out of that, and then we'll see how we go from there, but it is flexible. Right, how do the results look? We've come down a little bit lower than we would normally hope for on levels of service at this time of year. A couple of % of that is to do with simply missing data. We hope to catch that up in the very first month. That's not necessarily that we have failed something, just that we don't have evidence of it that we normally would want. So looking for 85, really hanging around the 80% mark. We're hoping to pull that up a bit by the next report. Capital projects, and I stress that this first one of our capital projects is actual delivery of milestones, not spend, is basically, within rounding of being on track. So capital program firing very well. A lot of that is down to the fact that we've got targets in place around project initiation and drawdown. So in other words, feeding that end of the pipe to make delivery possible. So they're looking at this stage, you can see their drawdown by June of 25 and March of 25. They're at about the 80% mark, but those dates are a long way away, and we're about where we would expect to be. So I think that based on historical trends, we will hit those planning goals around capital, which should mean that capital keeps firing the way it has been in this last year or so. You'll see more in the PMO report, but compared to going back over, say, 4 or 5 years ago with large carry forwards, we're not in that space. And of course, value for money, activities on budget. You'll notice that the report has moved to activity budgets, which are the kind that you sign off in the LTP. So in other words, are we delivering on the LTP? There's a little bit of variation there. Sort of 92% of activities are on track, but it is very early in the financial year to draw any conclusions from that. So I think that while it's perhaps not on track, might look a little bit better in a month or two. And of course, capital spend is below approved budget, but not far below. So all of those are looking reasonable or close. The two planning goals around capital I think will be amber next month because red seems a little pessimistic, and we're working with PMO on that. They'll probably go amber next month, and I expect level of service may go green next month. So that's the quick overview. I'll just refer briefly because there was a question in the pre-meeting about the scattergram there, about how that works. That's essentially bang for buck. That's a way of saying, are you delivering and where are you on spend? So the sweet spot is obviously you're delivering the levels of service that were set in the LTP and you're doing so on budget. Most of them, as you can see there, are delivering at this early stage of the year and reasonably close to budget. Over time, what tends to happen through the course of the year is you start to develop some outliers for various reasons, floods, whatever mitigating factors. These reports will be looking at the outliers because they're the ones that we need to focus on to improve our performance. That's the, if you like, 5-minute, 3-minute overview. I should stress that in terms of levels of service, that's the one I want to go back to. The ELT discussion around that focused on management teams actively discussing their comments and remedial actions so that they're sharper about actual fixes. Some occasionally describe the problem but don't necessarily fix it. And so the CE's given some guidance there around sharper comments from the management teams around remedial actions. And hopefully we'll be bringing those to you in coming months.
That's great. Thank you very much for that, Peter. That's been really, really useful. The thing great about the remedial actions, I think it's fantastic we can get that fine-tuned. And what I really liked was your sort of, given your experience, your forward look on where you think it will land next month, because that's as important as what we're looking at now. So I appreciate that.
Sure.
And it's good to see if we can move those red ones to orange and then orange to green. That would be great. Tyler had a question, and then Yanni.
Kia ora, Pete.
G'day.
Just two of them. They're both referring to page 18 on the agenda. And I'm noting that some of these service deliveries, the way I see is at 29%. That's my first question, as to, do we have an explanation as to why? Is there hold-ups? The next one's around building regulation.
Okay, could you just be a little specific for me? You said page
Sure.
18, which
Yep. So it says Otakaro Avon River Corridor. The 4-year forecast is 393,000. The service delivery is sitting at 29%, which is quite substantially lower than anything else on this chart, not including building regulation.
Yep.
I'm wondering why it's at 29%.
Okay, that is the odd one out of the whole table, and that is that while there is an activity plan in the LTP for the corridor, much of what happens in the corridor comes from Three Waters, transport, parks, and it's a peculiarity of the Act that we have mandatory groups of activity, specifically Three Waters, transport, where you can't take things from those groups and put them somewhere else.
I see.
So the Otakaro Avon River Corridor activity plan is, if you like, a core with lots of contributions from elsewhere, from Three Waters, transport,
Oh,
parks.
so that's what you were talking. Okay.
So it's a bit of a shell,
Yep.
and that means that these results are not actually reflective of exactly what happens in the corridor.
I see.
The legislation demands that our Three Waters stuff sits in Three Waters, our transport stuff sits in transport. So it's there, but that budget, as you can see, the 393 is actually relatively minimal budget compared to what actually happens in there. So I'm not saying it's an artifact, but it's not reflective of what happens in the corridor.
So would that somewhat offset the median average of the service delivery targets?
If you counted all the things that happen in other major groups, those numbers would look quite different.
Cool.
I know that's not a very satisfactory answer.
No,
but
that's good.
It is how mechanically it works.
Yep, it's a very good explanation. The next one's around building regulation.
Page.
Same one, page. So
Right.
it's page 18. It's currently sitting at 64%. Would you be able to tell me why?
There are some explanations in the exceptions, I won't take your time up on them, but
I'll take a read. No worries.
if you go to some of the level of service exceptions around that activity, there are some explanations in there around resourcing and consent rates, consent levels and resourcing.
All right, I'll give that a read. Thanks so
But
much.
quite happy to bring back a bit of a deeper dive if you're looking for that.
Yeah, it's quite a contentious part, particularly with a lot of my constituents who have been having issues with building regulation and overspend or overcharging,
Right.
and not hitting deadlines. And then all that is comms, really, to be honest, between either the regulator and the contractor doing it.
Okay, so that's almost not so much a hitting target question as a how and process question.
Yes,
And communications.
which will then affect targets based on performance.
Okay. Well, look, given that won't jump off the page intuitively here, we might bring you back something next month
Okay,
based on that request.
that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, cheers.
Yeah, thank you. I just was interested to understand a little bit more about on page 26, the water supply target, where it says the average consumption of drinking water in litres per resident per day, and we've got a target, and then it says data unavailable at this time of monthly update being submitted, but target last year was not met. I mean, I guess I'd kind of highlight that's one that would be quite good to see the trend, and actually, given that we've put in water meters, I guess interested to know whether that system's working, or it seems odd that we wouldn't be able to know what the information was, given that we've got a whole series of meter readings.
My understanding is that that's a temporary one for this month and that there should be data coming. That's one of the little group I mentioned where we didn't get the data for this report,
Yeah.
but we do expect to get the data.
But if we're charging for excess water use, but we can't be told how much over or what the average is, isn't that concerning?
But like I said, I don't think it's a permanent.
Unless I missed what you said, Peter, it's going to be here next month.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I mean for the residents who are being billed for excess water charges,
Yeah.
do we have a high degree of confidence that we have the accurate
But
information?
have I completely misunderstood what you said? I thought you said that the data you need for your report is not available. That doesn't necessarily mean the data's not available. It's just not ready for your report.
I don't see it as a permanent problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Another question, Yanni?
Yeah, and just on the other one was that there's a number of comments around land drainage. This is on page 40, and effectively it's we're failing. Well, it's got a red thing. The actual metrics cannot be determined until full asset management maturity assessment is carried out. This is around the increased land drainage. I'm just wondering, do we know when that asset management maturity is going to be available?
I don't, but we can ask the question and have it put in the next report.
Yeah, and is there a plan to sort of give us an update? Because obviously it was quite bad last year. Is there a plan to give us an update of progress that's being made towards improving that?
We'll request an update as part of the next one.
Okay, thank you.
There's a few levels of service around wastewater and stormwater which have read, and it's a lot to do with the budget. And there's comments in there about bringing that back to the annual plan because we haven't basically got enough money in the long-term plan from the last decision. Is that will staff be bringing that sort of over the next, during that November-December period when we're having the discussions on that or presentations about it?
So, broadly speaking, without knowing exactly what's behind each measure, it's possible that something might come back as part of the annual plan, but it's also possible that ELT looks at this and tries to resolve the issue before that. Sometimes an officer will say, "I'd like more money," but maybe we haven't considered all the options there. So we'll try to solve it, and if we can't solve it, then it might come back as part of the annual plan. But there is a reluctance to just keep adding money, is what I'm saying.
Thank you. Thanks, Peter. Can I take you back supplementary to Tyler's questions around the OARC? It's not specific to that, but rather the nature in which we are reporting. So We want our reporting to be meaningful for us, and if these figures, particularly in relation to that, actually isn't telling us the story that we need to tell, that we need to see as governors, I suppose the question is there another way of reporting or collecting the data for that particular project which is more meaningful in reporting to us? Or secondly, the question, do we need to report on it at all if it's not telling us what we need to know?
Well, first thing is OARC is by far the exception. Everything else is a clear one-to-one activity. What you see is what you get. The only reason that we can't do OARC as the same as everything else is because of that Local Government Act requirement that Transport and Three Waters have Transport and Three Waters in them. The solution there, and I think we briefly considered it for a while, would be to report the same stuff twice so that the Three Waters components are visible in OARC but also in Three Waters. And I think we started to get into murky territory with audit at that point because they didn't want the same stuff counted twice. So I'm going on recollection here. I'd need to go back and check the emails, but there was some question mark over pulling them out of where they sit, putting them under OARC, but also having them present where they're required to be by law. Does that make any sense as a one-off exception thing?
I suppose there's no simple solution to it, and as long as we've got the explanation as to the variance, but I'm pleased to hear that you've looked at the issue to see whether there was any other way of reporting it, which is really what I was looking for. It's
a complicated piece of plumbing, but one way we could deal with it, to me the best way, would be to have some human commentary around what you asked. Like the numbers might be required by law to sit in these places, but the commentary could cover what you were asking.
The issue for me at a governance level is making sure that our data collection is in the right place and that our reporting is meaningful for us. And if that figure's not really telling the full story, then, as I said, the question is, why is it there? But I understand. Thank you.
Not quite a question, but I was just tile through your issue. Maybe through Peter, rather than reporting back, you could deal directly with Peter and the staff just to sort out the road bump. Cheers.
And we can take it offline if it's easier. I've actually found the part that's related to the questions that I was asking. The first one is it says here on page 61 at the bottom of the page, inspections within 3 working days of customer request for the month of September is at 88.3%. The remedial action is the question mark that I've got here, which is additional inspections, resources are being engaged by way of contractors, and remote inspection technology continues to be promoted and utilised when requested by customers. My question is, where are these contractors coming from? And are they from out of the city? And what additional costs are incurred when using those contractors?
Okay, that's definitely one I'll have to work with the head of service. We'll come back to you with a response. Now that there's specific questions, that should actually be pretty cut and dried.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. They're going to do quarterly reporting in the first week of November, and we will be able to provide an update then.
Okay, thanks, Pete. And the last question is, in the same page at the top, continue with the end-to-end customer experience project. I'm wondering if we could, or I could get some info on that.
Okay, for sure.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, it's just around similar to the question that I asked last month, but getting the list, the high level spend by unit. I mean that's good, but what we don't get is a percentage of projects that have gone over versus a percentage of which haven't. So
Deal with that in the capital report.
yeah, sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, thank you very much, Peter. That's been really good, and I think the way you've done it and prompted so many questions is a good reflection on the work you've done. So I appreciate that. So Tyler's happy to move this, and Tim looks like he's happy to second. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you. Cheers. Rightio, Russell.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and good morning all. So this is the financial report for August, and being August, it's pretty early in the year. So the results that we've got here outline where we were, but the forecast, there's not been like a deep dive into that. That's happening now for the September report and as part of the annual plan build as well. But where we were sitting at the end of August, we had a surplus of 11.4 million, higher than budget, and we're forecasting at this point, like I say, it's very early on, a surplus of just over $9 million for the end of the year. Two factors are behind that. One is the savings in the insurance premium costs that you'll be aware of. Also higher rate growth than we had budgeted for as well by about $1 million. So that makes up the bulk of that. Just highlight section 5.7 and 5.8. They're new sections in the report that we put in for this time. I'm happy to take any feedback either here or later. And so that's looking at where we were this time last year and a comparison on how we're going as well. So just flicking through the report, capital program, as Peter said, we're pretty much on track at this stage. We're forecasting a variance of $39.1 million by year end, but there'll be more on that in the PMO report to follow. We're expecting most of that to be requested to be carried forward. Treasury, all the metrics there are on track, and I guess just a bit of background to Treasury. I said yesterday at the annual plan meeting, LGFA are keen to come and speak with council, so we're arranging that meeting. And also we're also talking with SNP folk. It's almost time for our annual review there, so that'll be, we're organising the meetings around that. That's pretty much it that I sort of wanted to cover, Mr. Chair, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Great. Hey, thank you for that. Just on that last point around the credit ratings, I know Wellington had a decrease or a decline a week or two ago. Is there anything going through our mind that would lead us to think that we'd be in the same position?
It's a good question. We haven't heard anything. And we knew those, I guess, declines were likely. They'd signalled that previously. Christchurch City Council and CCHL were probably the outliers when they were looking at the sector across the board. Our headroom and our revenues through CCHL are both strong contributors. When Standard & Poor's looked at the sector, there was a number of councils that went down, not just Wellington. But yeah, there's been nothing signalled to us. Just maintaining a balanced budget is good, that metric that we keep. We've spoken to them about that, and they're comfortable with the position that we're in a number of levels. So yeah, certainly nothing at this stage, Mr. Chair.
Okay, great, thank you. That's good to know. Does anyone have any? Tyler?
No, just quick feedback. Referring to number 7, it has plain language meaning. I really appreciate that. It was really cool. So,
okay.
That's great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Tyrone?
Thanks, Russell. I was interested in the phrase higher rates growth than budgeted, and if you could just talk us through that.
Yeah, sure.
What the outlook for that is.
Okay, just through you, Mr. Chair. So when we set the annual plan, well, and this time the long-term plan, we estimate as much as possible, and estimates, it's a lot more scientific than that term would probably give credit for, where we expect the number of rating units to be at the end of the year. We can never get it exactly right because we've got to adopt the LTP beforehand, but we estimate where it's going to be. And this year we're a bit short of that, as we tend to be a bit conservative in that space. We don't want to overestimate the number of units we have, because effectively that would mean we would have less rates than we get, and that's not a good position to be in. So we tend to be on the softer side. And so what this is referring to is the gap between where we estimated it would be and where actually happened at year end. So it's as at 30 June, that's the number that's locked and loaded. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, that does. And can I just follow up, Sam?
Yeah.
So what's the trajectory looking like? Is it different than normal, or is it similar to normal of rates growth?
So we did, I think it was about 0.9 we used to put in as a provision, but recent years has seen that grow. So we are significantly ahead of that for the LTP. We're discussing with QV now on where they see things going for this year and where we're likely to be. It's an important number that is part of the annual plan discussions as well. But certainly the number of we've just seen a growth higher than in previous years. Yep.
The good thing about it in my simplistic mind is that with the overrun, then in theory it gives you choices like we talked about yesterday with the annual plan.
Yes.
So we've effectively taken, you could argue we've taken too much money off people now, so it needs to be corrected when we land the next annual plan. And that's just one of those options that'll come back when Russell and the team do the work. Kelly?
Yeah, thanks, Russell. Just in terms of personnel costs, could you just explain corporate increases not yet applied?
So we budget for salary increases based on union discussions and the like. They haven't been settled yet, so they haven't been applied. We budget for them, so they're in the budget. So they haven't been paid out, so because they haven't been settled.
When's that likely to be?
It's. I understand it's getting close, but yeah.
And the other thing was just in terms of providing a bit of context for us. Obviously, there's vacancies that haven't been filled. And it was pretty much the same over the last year, looking at the graphs, etc. Is that consistent? I mean, are we slowly filling those vacancies, or has it been an awful lot worse?
I think it goes in ebbs and flows. We've set probably about 10% vacancy factor over the last few years. The number I saw for August was still about 10%. Like, it's not the same people, obviously, but yeah, it's sitting around about that. We budget for that when we set the budget. The number of vacancies that we're likely to have. So we put a percentage in to try and capture what that will be. Yeah, because we're never all the time fully staffed, unfortunately. Yeah.
Does that significantly affect levels of service?
So I feel you, Mr. Chair. In some cases, it would have an impact. I think if it's significantly affects, you would hear that. I wasn't seeing that in Peter's report.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so I'm happy to move that. Victoria's happy to second it. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you very much, Russell. That's great.
Thank you.
Okay, and our last item in public is the Capital Program Performance Report. So, Paul, do you want to come up? Thank you.
Great, thank you. Good morning. Just a couple of points I want to just run through on the capital report. Just to reiterate, it's been realigned with activity as opposed to units as it has been historically. So slight rearrangement of the report to reflect the activities, and that means it's more aligned with annual plan and LTP planning. The watch lists have been updated in relation to the meeting last month in terms of the projects there that were agreed, and the Transport Choices report is no longer being provided as the funding is no longer available, and the quarterly CRAF report is there. Just a question that was raised a minute ago around OARC. In terms of the capital program for OARC, that's about 15 million this year, just under 15 million. And the three key projects for that program are on the watch list. So that's about 9 of the 15 million is sitting on the watch list. So they're there if you're interested. So just in relation to an earlier question. And happy to take any questions from there.
Hey, thank you. That's a really good report. Does anyone have any questions on this? Yanni?
Yeah, thank you. I was just wondering how we're going with the multi-use arena in regards to like the no surprises. Obviously there's been some adverse media coverage of some of the subcontractors that are being used, and it wasn't very flattering at all. Yet we keep getting told everything's going really well. So, work is progressing very well on site. Is there any process by which we actually get notified of things that aren't going well and it gets flagged to us at a governance level?
Well, we have the board come in every 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, I
And
guess.
brief us, and they meet regularly with the project team. I'm sure you understand as well. We have council staff that work in this project, so it's not like we're just getting the keys at the end. They've got Mark and Kent running it as well. So I'm sure the chief executive's informed of anything.
Right, but why are we not?
So hang on,
why
Mary
are we
might-
reading in the newspaper?
Wait.
So I presume the matter you're referring to is about the one of the companies who were installing stall going into receivership. We can assure you that they actually worked incredibly hard the weekend before that they received their receivership to make sure all the critical work was done, and B6 Watpac, who are the contractor responsible and have already got a firm in place to continue the work.
Yeah, probably just. I mean, the headline is Christchurch Stadium Steel subcontractor goes into liquidation.
I kind of want to, Yanni.
Appoints fraudster as
Yanni,
director.
stop. It's not helpful. So if you've got a different question, it's been answered by the chief executive.
The positive story there would be that the work that was
Tim,
done to cover it
don't
would be
wind him
really
up.
good,
We don't-
but that's a positive story.
Yeah,
We
No,
want
that's
that.
great, but I'm just.
No, stop, guys, stop. Or we can both leave if we're going to be like that. We've got a big day, and I'd kind of like us to keep our calm so we can make some, decisions. So, Yanni, have you got a question that isn't about an article?
I mean, just looking at the craft stuff. Just a general concern that again it seems to be very slow. Is there any thought to why those projects are taking so long?
Jacob, is that a...
I mean, we're working through them. We've been out to the board on quite a number of them, including your board for Marine Parade. So we are working through them.
Great. Any... so I've got Celeste and then Mark, and then Phil said he'll move it.
This is just more of a process question around the naming of some of these projects. It's just been issues with the fact that the MCR is called the Otakara Avon Route, and then you've got the CDC pathway called the Otakara Avon Route. And during the long-term plan, there were issues in that the MCR was called the River Route, which is actually the CDC pathway, back and forth. So, and the descriptions in here are a bit confusing because, it's one of those projects is progressing and on track. The other one seems to be a little bit unclear as to where it sits, and we're getting more information about that. What would be the process to formally ask to get that changed? Because I understand
I don't think we need to formally ask. Can we just we'll just take it away and see whether we can be consistent?
I think it has to be a formal resolution.
Sorry.
You mean actually renaming the project?
Yeah, because
So
before the annual plan goes out, we need to make sure that people know what they're consulting on, because it wasn't clear there was a mistake in the long-term plan.
Jacob, have you got
one comment I've got to make. There was a competition on the names of these back in the day, so we'd probably need to go back and look at what that means. It's probably not as simple as some of the other projects where we change names.
Okay.
Just the project description changes. So the sentence underneath the name could change without the name itself changing to describe more fully what it is. Because currently the description says it follows the river, where it's not going to.
We won't design the solution, but we've heard the problem and the team will take it away. So, Mark.
Thank you. Just looking at one of the watch list projects, Hallsville Junction Road Extension. Do we have any update on where we're at with that Kiwi Rail hold up?
So they're working on the level crossings. My understanding is that the switchover is likely to be in January, or certainly early next year is when they're looking to the blocker line to do the switchover of the level crossings.
Great. Okay, so that's been moved by the Mayor and seconded by Jake. So all in favour? Against? That's carried. Hey, thank you very much. Okay, so now that concludes the public session today. So what we'll do is we'll move to exclude the public, except we'll note we're keeping Paul and it's the council stuff, so that's all good. Phil's happy to move that. Tyler's happy to second it. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Great, so we'll just give it a moment.